Hi everyone, welcome to the Commune. My name is Ren. I use she, they pronouns, and my special guest can introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Max. I use he, him pronouns. How you doing?
Welcome. Today we is going to be super exciting because we are going to be doing some Minecraft parkour whilst discussing stuff. We're not going to be discussing like a novel or anything, but granted it'll probably come up just because that's all that exists in my brain. But
Nice.
what do you want to talk about first?
Fuck. How about some mythology? I think that's a
Oh
shared
yeah.
interest of ours that we can both enjoy.
I'm gonna say fair warning, I'm very bad at parkour.
It's okay, so am I. This is the first level and I still haven't beaten it.
I just can't even do the first one. Okay. Fuck. But what's your favorite like branch of mythology? I don't know that much, to be honest.
Um, and this is partially because of Rick Riordan, but I'd say that it's gotta be Greek mythology. It's classic, it's got a lot of branches to just really explore and enjoy, and it's got some fantastic I want to say like introspections into the human nature that I think was really insightful for however long ago it kind of came into being.
Yeah, I don't know that much, but my favorite Greek mythology person is I think it's Herodotus or something like that. But they like explained like that trans people was just this god getting too drunk and accidentally giving people the wrong bodies. And I'm like, if Christianity could have just had that little piece in there, then like maybe a lot of things would be better.
Yeah, I can totally see that. There's a lot of really great stuff like that that I think really brings it all together. And I think specifically my favorite part of it is that um, this is common for a lot of religions and mythologies, but specifically for Greek, I'd say they made the gods in their own image. And what I mean by that is not only did they appear human most of the time, but they also had flaws, just like other humans, mortals did. Um, and you don't see this in a lot of other mythologies. Say, Egyptian mythology, a lot of the gods had bird heads to kind of separate them from regular mortals. Or, say, Christian mythology, where God is just some all encompassing being that you can't really see as much as perceive. But with Greek mythology, for the most part, the gods are perceived by mortals as them but bigger, and that's really just what applies throughout mythology for the most part.
That's yeah, I feel like maybe people would be able to connect more to a religion if like the gods resembled people, cuz I know for me it was kind of hard to really connect with Christianity when I was a part of it. Wait, I can fly?
Um, Good question.
Maybe I just fell too many times.
Maybe.
Cute. But it was really hard for me to connect with Christianity just because like my brain doesn't work. I'm so sorry. It was hard to connect with Christianity because it was just like there's this sort of like God, but it doesn't really have any clear ways to connect with it. And like the way that most people connected with it was like the feeling of other people in church. But like I think it'd be easier to connect if you could really like see the gods in your own sort of image and connect with them more because maybe you make the same mistakes that they do.
Yeah, exactly. Um, just kind of speaking on that, like in Greek mythology, like the gods regularly, kind of came down to the mortal world from Mount Olympus to just kind of mingle, fuck, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the vibes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. But that's definitely one of the great parts about it, because through them coming down to the mortal world all the time, that's where a lot of the stories come from. And a lot of it is, kind of freaky, because you got, you know, gods turning into bulls, nymphs turning into trees. You got half bull, half man fellas. You got a guy that turns people to gold. And these are all a direct result of the gods just coming down and mingling with the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like I said, it's so much easier to connect with it, especially with like, and I bet it feels it's I now I've got my words together. I feel like when you have like I'm gonna say Christianity because it's really what I know the most about generally as far as like structured religions go.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's very like the standard of like what God is just seems very hard to like achieve. And so I feel like the how to get into like heaven or like a good afterlife is more difficult than whereas you have gods in Greek mythology that like make mistakes. It's much easier to live up to that, and I think it takes more into account how human people are.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of expanding on that, in the Greek version of the underworld, it's less of a thing where you're either in heaven or hell, and it's more of a thing where your soul gets judged by, I believe it's these three former kings who used to, be actual mortals, and they judge your life, and instead of two main places, there's four.
Oh.
And yeah, what you have is kind of starting at the highest. You have the Elysian Fields, which is like where the best people, they get to be, the heroes, the charitable men, and it's like always a party there, always just a generally good place, blue skies. And then moving down, you have the fields of Asheville, and that's where the people who were neutral in life, they rest. They weren't necessarily good, but they weren't bad either. They were simply stagnant in life, and this would mostly be where the most people are, because most people in life end up being bystanders to the biggest events. And then moving down one, you have the fields of punishment, which is where, the generally not so good people go. And
like
that's
I would say politicians, but would they go to the bottom one?
some would. But not all of the worst people go to the fields of punishment, because even though that's where some of the bad people go, the worst people go to Tartarus. And Tartarus was like the maximum security torture field where the worst of the worst go. So some of the politicians that you hate so much would go there. You'd find all the big baddies in life there. And I think one of my favorite stories of those who were put in Tartarus, is Tantalus, who was a king that he got the the privilege of being able to host the gods for dinner. And this was like the full pantheon. You got Zeus and the whole gang. And what he ended up doing was murdering his own son and put him into the soup that he then fed to the gods. And they didn't find out until, I believe, Demeter found a toe in her soup, which, you know, that's generally not so great.
Yeah.
But they figured that out, and Zeus was like, "Oh no, you fucking didn't, you little piece of shit!"
Like,
right?
how goddamn dare you?
Yeah, smites him with a thunderbolt,
As he
and
should.
yeah, and pretty much Tantalus, his eternal punishment was being in water, like a pool of water, up to like, say, a little bit below his chest, and a grapevine is above him. But every time he tries to reach down to get some water, it goes away from him, so he can never drink again. And every time he reaches for the grapevine, it kind of slithers away. He can never eat, and that is where the term something being tantalizing comes from, because it's something that you want, but you know it's kind of out of reach. So like, let's say just for me, going to an Ivy League school, that's a tantalizing prospect. But
You and me both, Chief.
yeah, hey, you know what? I'm probably going to go to Chapel Hill. It'll be
Chapel
fun.
Hill's good.
Yeah, for sure.
I like how the Greeks were like, you made your son into soup. For your punishment, you will be soup for eternity. You
Yeah,
can't eat
like
the
that.
soup.
No soup for you.
I think that's kind of funny because like with my discussion with like Spencer and American Gods last week, all those gods, they really loved human sacrifice. It like brought them their power. And I think it's interesting that the Greeks didn't have that same perspective. They were like, why would you sacrifice a human? Are you insane?
Yeah, they were more into material sacrifices. And what that would mostly entail of was, say you want to sacrifice something to Athena, right? She's the goddess of strategy and war and wisdom. And so you would probably sacrifice some material relating to wisdom or something that she's created,
Like a sword? Or like...
I would think something closer to like olives. You would throw olives into the fire because she was the one who made the olive tree. Do you know that myth?
Yeah, well, sort of. I played the Greek island in Pop Tropica.
Yeah. So basically what it was there was a city of, it was going to be a great city, and they wanted a patron god, and they had to decide between Poseidon, the god of the sea, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom. And since this was like a portside town, Poseidon decided to do some epic stuff, and he made horses, and they came from the sea. And you know, they just kind of rode out on a chariot, and he was like, "Look, behold, horses. You can ride on them, and they can get you to places faster." And they were like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool. That's really cool."
Like, hell yeah.
Yeah. And then Athena, what she did was she kind of banged her scepter onto the ground, and from that sprang an olive tree. And that was really important to the Greeks, even more important than horses. And that's mainly because not only were they food, but the oil from them also had many purposes for the Greeks. I believe there was cooking purposes, oil for like, you know,
like
cleaning
and stuff.
Yeah, I think there was some medicinal stuff there as well.
There probably is.
Yeah, so the Greeks chose Athena as their patron god, and so they named their city Athens, as in Athens, Greece, which is a city today.
Yeah.
And There's also in Athens, Georgia, but no one likes that one.
No,
Uh,
we don't talk about that, Athens.
we don't talk about that, Athens.
Like that's like the ugly twin.
Exactly. Yeah. And so Poseidon got very mad about that because he was like, "Come on, dude, horses, horse girls, you know them. They
Men
would
be like,
love
but
him."
transportation.
But transport, exactly.
Like, yeah, you can
And
cook with that, but transportation.
yeah, so what? So he was angry. So he flooded Athens,
That's so
and
rude.
everyone, kind of called BS on that. They're like, "Hey, man, that was kind of a dick move, you know?"
Yeah, why would you do
So
that?
yeah, why would you do that? You were going to be patron saint if you weren't so bad. And he was like, "Oh, damn."
Like, maybe
So
we'd like you if you didn't literally flood our city.
yeah, so his punishment was to spend years and years building a wall around Athens, and this was to protect against like invaders, just generally be a sign of strength.
Yeah.
And I think this was one of the only real like historical kind of examples of where a wall actually did need to be, because things were a lot different then. But yeah, that is where the whole olive thing comes from.
That's so cool. Maybe I should try and like olives. I don't know. I've just never really eaten them.
Oh no, I fucking hate olives. Don't get me
Really?
wrong. Oh yeah, no, they're nasty.
Olive
Hate
oil
the
goes
smell
hard
of them.
though.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know if my mom can actually have them, so we usually use like coconut oil when cooking. But
That's so sad.
yeah,
With
I know.
pasta, olive oil.
Yeah. Hey, don't knock coconut oil till you try it.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I love coconut oil. Different uses, though. Different uses.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I'm trying to think other things that I know about Greek mythology, but I just don't. I wonder how much stuff of Christianity might have been borrowed from Greek mythology.
I can't think of anything specifically, but I do know that other stuff has been borrowed from Greek mythology, like the original Romeo and Juliet. That was borrowed from Greek mythology.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I don't remember their exact names, but it was a very similar story in which there was, two lovers of, of different warring cities, and they would secretly meet on a hill with, I think it was elderberries, on the hill, and they would meet there at night, and it was generally nice until one day, on his way there, I think the guy got mauled by a bear.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Regardless, he got killed, and then the girl, when he didn't show up, she killed herself at the tree on the hill in between the cities.
Vibes, I guess.
Yeah. And that was the general basis of Romeo and Juliet.
Omashu vibes. That's the right city, right? Yeah.
Not sure.
From Avatar? I can't remember.
Yeah. Should have built a secret tunnel. Would have worked a lot better.
Bears can't get in the secret tunnel.
Yeah. No, they cannot.
I don't know. Generally, the Greeks just knew what was going on.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Like actual democracy, running water.
Yeah.
Did they have like, I don't know much about like, I just don't know much about like Greece or whatever. Did they have like ancient Greece, did they have like a big class divide? Or was like the standard of living generally pretty
They definitely had peasants. I think class exists regardless of mythology, but in their afterlife, it didn't really matter what your class was as long as you had payment for for Hermes to bring you down to the underworld. And
like payment for the boat.
Um, yeah, pretty much. They would put coins under the tongue as proper burial, and if people didn't have those coins under their tongue when they died, they would be forced to wander the shores of the river Styx before they were, I think, so some mythologies, some interpretations kind of say that they had to wander for 100 years, kind of as lost spirits, and others said they would just be there for the rest of time wandering the shore because they weren't able to get those coins. And yeah, and those coins were for the ferry ride across.
Oh, so it's like they try to get coins while they're on the river for the boat, and then otherwise you're buried with coins, and that pays for Hermes to take you.
Yeah, that essentially kind of covers it.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Oh my god, I think I'm actually gonna complete. Oh,
you're so
so
close.
sad. This is the best at parkour I've ever done, though. I feel proud of myself.
This is the first level of 7.
Cute, super cute.
Yeah, I'm just spectating you. I beat this level a while ago.
Oh goddamn! It would have waited a while, sir.
It's fine.
Okay, so for the DMCA one, like the topic you want to talk about, unless there's more about mythology that you want to.
I think Greek mythology is what I mostly nerded out about, but I think I was able to get a good few points across.
Sick. We can always circle back around to it.
Yeah, of course.
I did some light Googling on like the DMCA. I don't really understand it. My knowledge is just like there's this bill that they have to pass for like reasons, I guess. Like they just have to, and some senators are trying to like shove some controversial bills in.
Yeah.
So like what are the controversial bills that they're trying to pass?
Okay, so do you know what the DMCA is?
No.
So the DMCA is the Digital Music Copyright Act, and essentially what it does is it's protection for the owners of music in the digital space, so that, say, you couldn't just go on YouTube and monetize a re-upload of just like a Taylor Swift song.
Oh my god,
example.
I was gonna say Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly. She's popular. She's got stuff right now. But yeah, so the baseline of that law, that is a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, but a lot of the times digital content creators, even big ones with millions of subscribers, they will be getting, strikes, copyright strikes on their channel for playing like a couple seconds of a song, or just not even, or it'll be like a live creator, someone on Twitch, and some music will play for a couple of seconds, not even like intentionally, and all of their revenue, because of like a 5-second clip, will get taken away. That is what the DMCA is currently utilized for the most part.
That's so bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit. They get all of the revenue for 5 seconds of, say, a 10-minute video or a 2-hour stream.
The government loves to punish like independent creators and people trying to like make money on their own and not be taken advantage of, but
and really it's more of these predatorial music corporations that own this kind of stuff. So like the Universal Music Group, they're a really egregious abuser of the DMCA, and this is mainly because the groundwork of the DMCA is loose, and it didn't quite account for, say, how big YouTube and Twitch have gotten in recent years, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But right now there's a new bill in Congress that Tom Tillis is trying to push through. Yes, I know.
Disgusting. For legal
Yeah.
reasons, this is a joke, but disgusting.
Yeah. But he wants to pretty much make punishments more severe. It's not just revenue, it is making DMCA violations a felony. And because of how loosely the DMCA is
Wait, a fucking
worded,
felony?
yes, a felony.
Wait,
That is,
okay, wait. So they're literally trying to stop independent content creators from fucking voting.
that would be a kind of side thing of it, but the main thing about it is that it would be so hard to uphold because of how badly the original DMCA is worded. Because the amount of channels and creators that will get striked, all those strikes could now hold a felony punishment. And you would either have to be arresting thousands of internet people, which no one wants to do. That would be a media nightmare. Or you would just have to, not enforce it. And I know you don't like government, but an unenforceable law, that just isn't good. It's like people might occasionally get arrested if they're like egregious, and that's being brought to the attention of the government. But overall, that kind of thing does not do anything good for
anyone.
For things being run. And yeah, so there are right now a bunch of movements to make it so that that does not get through. Like, granted, you have all of the Democrats, they're pretty unilaterally against this. But yeah, but this could potentially get passed through just because
they're
a lot of
putting it in the other bill, right?
Well, yeah, and a lot of politicians are in the pocket of music industry, and not even for a lot, like 4 figures in some cases, like just a couple
like
$1,000 is all it takes to buy out these people. So I think that's pretty bullshit, generally stupid on the hand, and that's really just in the hands of Tom Tillis. I hope he gets voted out next time he's up for re-election.
I don't know. Call this the nihilist or cynical leftist in me, but if you think about it like this, maybe this wasn't a primary intent, but it certainly is something that could come of it if they are actually able to enforce the law. Because if you think about it, the makeup of Twitch streamers is typically younger. There isn't many fucking boomer Twitch streamers. It's generally Gen Z, maybe millennial. And we know that Gen Z and millennials typically tend to be more left-leaning. At the very least, they're not typically Republicans. So the fact that it's really backed by Tillis is a little concerning, because it's if you make it a felony, then you're cutting this huge population of younger, more left-leaning voters that they can't vote anymore.
Yeah, and I get where you're coming from, but I don't believe that it would affect a huge amount of people, just because this would mainly be geared towards content creators as opposed to just your average YouTube watcher, Twitch watcher, that kind of thing. But
there's
granted,
such a
that
large
would still,
amount of Twitch streamers and YouTubers.
Yeah. I do get where you're coming from. It could potentially become something of an IRA thing. You know how, did I just say IRA? IRS. Kind of how they mainly go for lower income people, just because the higher income people who get audited, they have, amazing lawyers who are able to. But lower income people can't. So it could potentially end up going for those who, are generally smaller creators that end up having 5 seconds of a Taylor Swift song in their video or their stream. And what this also opens up the opportunity for is for people who are streaming, they can be, say if they're streaming like Call of Duty, right? You know how party chat works?
Not really.
So party chat is basically just when you're in a group with people playing a game and you're in a lobby. You can essentially just talk to each other, but that could be utilized online party chats that can be utilized to essentially stream snipe someone, play a song through your mic while someone is streaming, and suddenly that person is DMCA striked and they're getting investigated for yeah.
God, that's horrible.
Yeah, and so I think the general consequences of this law would be pretty devastating.
I feel like it also it exists as a really good example of like lobbying and how it's literally just like there's no corruption in the United States because it's called lobbying. But I'm just like, this bill, this law clearly doesn't help anyone. Like maybe it helps some music like companies, but that's not in the interest of like people. It's just not. And the only reason it's even on the table is because politicians are getting paid off by music companies.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say it's completely lobbying in general. Some lobbying is genuinely a good thing. Like, for instance, my mom, she works for a recycling partnership, and they work with lobbyists to get bills and funding for just general green projects that would genuinely help America, on a national stage. But when you're talking about lobbying in the form of corporations and their interests, then it gets a lot shadier. There's a lot of under the table stuff, and I generally can't say that it helps anyone.
I feel like lobbying, when it's things like dealing with money and like as a tool for persuasion, I think it's bad no matter what, but it can like you said, it can really be utilized for good purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't have a whole lot more to say on that, but I think it's genuinely important to get that kind of message out.
Yeah. It's just it's disgusting, and I feel like anything bad, like in recent years it's been a little bit better, I feel like, with really noticing stuff that the government does that's bad, but I feel like generally it ends up being really covered up until it's too late, and by then it's like, what's even the point?
Yeah, I'd say that definitely applies to a lot of things that have been happening, and just I say this word a lot, but generally shady, generally bullshit,
corruption, generally a little fascist.
I'd say less fascism and more just corrupt in a business interest kind of way, because
that's what fascism is.
I'd say like more of a what's the word? It's an ocracy word, but with corporations. Plutocracy. Yeah, I'd say it goes towards a plutocracy, if anything. Fascism is more, that's authoritarian, right?
Yeah.
And plutocracy, that's more center right, leaning toward just center right.
I wouldn't say. I think we're a fake center-right country. This is some food for thought, because I'm currently at my mom's, but at my dad's, I have like my wall where I have the 14 characters of fascism from like Dr. Lawrence Britt. He's a political scientist. And he like wrote an article in 2003, and it was like the 14 characters of fascism, and I have examples under each one about how the United States falls under them. I want to make a podcast dedicated specifically to this, but I need to do some more in-depth research. But here are the 14. And powerful and continuing nationalism, disdain for the recognition of human rights, identification of enemies/scapegoats as a unifying cause, supremacy of the military, rampant sexism, controlled mass media, obsession with national security, religion and government intertwined, corporate power is protected, labor power is suppressed, disdain for intellectuals and the arts, obsession with crime and punishment, rampant cronyism and corruption, and fraudulent elections. And
well, thankfully we haven't had any fraudulent elections yet.
Well, actually, I believe that our election system is it's a fake. It's getting the fake consent of the people.
I do get where you're coming from there, but I'd say it's like explicitly fraudulent as opposed to like deceptively kind of against the favorite. Like it's a weird line that's.
It's a gray area for sure.
It's definitely a gray area because generally, a lot of the people in the country, their will is met. Like, I'd say in 2016, it wasn't the entirety of the nation, but it was still, what was it? It was, I think, over 60 million people, their will was still met, even if it wasn't the majority. I'd say that a fraudulent election is when it's a very small, like it's a smaller group, you know, like maybe like 1 out of 100. They're the ones kind of dictating how the election goes.
Did you mean the Electoral College?
No, because even the Electoral College, they generally have to vote for the will of the people. And yes, there can be faithless electors, which is a thing that I think should be taken out.
Yeah, the fact that even exists is so dumb.
But generally, they do vote in the form of the will of the people. I'm talking about like Putin levels is more what a fraudulent election is, in my opinion, just because it's really just one party you can vote for, or political rivals get literally fucking poisoned.
Yeah.
And you don't really have a choice, but I think the good part of the American election system is that not only is it's always going to be two parties unless something.
Hear me out. So yes, there is two parties, but if you really get down to it, they both stand for essentially the same things. So you really might as well only be voting for one party, because a lot of their differences are just very trivial. And those main differences couldn't actually happen. Like, yeah, Trump wanted to get like take away gay people's right to get married, but I think feasibly he couldn't actually do that.
Yeah. Honestly, I do know where you're coming from on that, but I would honestly say that even that is a bit of a misconception. Like, the baseline of the two parties, for the most part, is Democrats are for direct help and direct intervention into the economy, and and that does kind of entail a little bit more government control. That is generally the Democratic Party philosophy and what it has been for decades. And Republicans, they're more for more subtle change and a little bit less control, even if they aren't, if they haven't really done that in recent years. The Republican Party in general, what their history has entailed is more subtle redirection of economy and laws. And while there are sects of both parties that are for, say, in the Democrats, less control, and in the Republicans, more control, generally the baseline average, which is what their party stands for, are fundamentally different based on how they would deal with really important things that are being dealt with, like the economy and laws and the Supreme Court.
I see where you're coming from, and like that's where my beliefs were until most sort of recently, a few months back, when I started getting really into leftism and stuff. Oh my god, wait, I think I'm about to complete this level.
Oh. Okay, 2 more jumps. There we go.
Yeah!
Yes, sir! Okay,
so basically, that was my belief. But now that I've been really like thinking about international relations and like what actually is best for the people, because like I'm not really a communist per se, but I'm more of an anarcho-primalist, but we're not going to get into that right now. But like as far as like really things that have super wide-reaching effects, both parties are for capitalism, and there cannot be any peace under capitalism. So the Democrats have a worse history of like imperialism, I think, and like as bad as Trump is, he is bad. I will not gonna try and argue that he isn't, but like yes, he is sort of directly responsible for all of these civilian deaths in the US, but no one wants to talk about the Democrats being directly responsible for even more innocent civilian deaths as a direct result of their actions. And so both sides like stand for imperialism, and that it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but actually it's not more of a but more of an and. But I'd say that the two parties, while they do have similar international kind of views, when it comes to national views, focusing on just what we have in just what's happening in America, they are in many ways different on a lot of in a lot of the sense of the word. Wow, I cannot speak. But like, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Sort of. Like they do the sort of same shit when it's international, but as far as inside the country, their things vary a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see that a lot in, say, people talk about how every president since like Iraq is a war criminal based on all of the drone attacks and bombings that we've done. And yeah, that's generally true. But
as far as I'm concerned, anyone that supported the Iraq war is a war criminal. And can burn in the lowest level of Greek hell.
Tartarus. And yeah, that's a legitimate belief.
Wait, did I do that in the wrong order?
That's a legitimate belief to hold. But we gotta look at that internal merit, because as much as international affairs is a thing that will affect people around the world, what most people in the country are going to be directly seeing and in the news and just around in general is those internal affairs, which do vary significantly. Like you'll see, say, Reaganomics. You know Reagan a lot more for Reaganomics and
but he's the
AIDS
man,
epidemic.
Right? I
Yeah,
hate Reagan.
trickle down
Fuck
man.
that man. Fuck that guy.
No, he wasn't generally good, but that's what people know him for. Like, can you name? Well, I would say you could go to 90% of people who are interested in politics, and they wouldn't be able to name much about Reagan's external affairs because that's not what he's known for, and that's not what the focus is. So, yes, you can say that they all deal with the Middle East in similar ways. It's hard to say that they're the same when their internal dealings are so far apart.
I guess that makes sense. I don't know. As they're all capitalists, and I like whatever your belief about like what you think the best economic system is. Clearly, what we're doing now does not work. It sucks.
Yeah.
And all of them are interested in just keeping it and doing the same shit for the most part. They're all still wanting to do capitalism, just in slightly different flavors. And so internally, even, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Like, obviously there's a difference. I'm still on team, like, vote blue no matter who, settle for Biden, but I think we should expect more from our politicians. And I still think it's sort of a one-party system when you get down to it.
Yeah, and you're totally allowed to believe that. And kind of on the topic of, what these politicians stand for, I would say that if you took an internal look at these politicians, not what their public things are, but what they actually thought in private, you would find a lot more radical things like, yes, some of these people do support capitalism, but a lot of what this newer wave of of politicians, especially the progressive ones, they're not necessarily for socialism, for communism, for anarchism, but the steps that they want to put in place would allow a better transition to that than, say, an overall, just total, what would it be? Like a total wiping of the slate. And while it may not look like a amazing, so say.
How the fuck am I supposed to get over this?
It's a jump. You just gotta let the jump go. But they're not necessarily advocating for those next more left-leaning steps, but they're laying the groundwork to a transition into that in the future. And this would not be immediate, but this would be this is a gradual change that would occur over a few generations. But regardless of that, what this allows is for maybe after our times, we can actually achieve what would be best for the people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think really the difference between our perspectives is, like, you're looking more nationally and I'm looking more, like, globally, like, to all of humanity. And, like, there isn't a right or wrong way to look at it. The best way is probably a combination of both. And then also I think that the only way to get to where we, like, need to be, like, politically, socially, economically, is a revolution and, like, a complete, like, redoing. We wipe the slate clean. And I just think that's just our difference in point of views and perspective of the world.
Personally, I think a revolution has a lot of good ideas behind it, but just the actual logistics of it are more likely to result in just another authoritarian regime under, a different flavor, if that makes sense. And that's why I think a more gradual move will allow for what you want and what will be best for most people.
I think the main, like, because I know revolutions in the past, they've all generally been like, okay, we got rid of the big bad guy, and now just a new big bad guy comes in, and it's dictatorial or whatever. I know I said that wrong, but I think that's partly because you can't have communism coexist with capitalism, because they just are two completely different social orders, even because communism focused on like a lack of hierarchy.
Yeah.
So the problem is what, like, I have this meme printed out on my, like, the corkboard at my dad's, but it's like, every time communism's been tried, it's been like attacked, like a war declared on it, and then in a state of military gets declared a dictatorship, and then it's dissolved because it's a dictatorship, but that the dictatorship came out of war. So I'm like, this whole revolution business could only really work if it was global and had like a plan for the world after. Because I feel like I don't know too much about revolutions, but it seems like what happens is it just everything reaches a boiling point and the revolution happens, but then no one really seems to have a plan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you could go to 9 out of 10 people who want drastic change, and those 9 out of 10 don't have a real plan, and they don't understand what the full consequences of everything would be, you know? You try and go for a revolution that really emancipates the people, but the groundwork that has been put in place, say in America, that allow you to gather for so long, that can be taken away as a result of a revolution. So in my opinion, it's more of a risk than, gradual change towards an eventual leftist playing field where everyone has equal standing.
I feel like it depends on your view on the structures we have now, because it's if you value the structures we have now, of course a revolution is gonna not really be in the question. It's not gonna be ideal. But as far as like my beliefs, I don't think there's really anything worth keeping in this shit. Based on all my research and like for following podcasts, I want to dive really deeply into Jerry Mander's book, Four Arguments for the Elimination of Television, because it really, and tie it to Fahrenheit 451 and 1984, because like every interaction we have, especially with nature, is completely facilitated, and we're not living at all the way humans evolved to live or are meant to. And if you notice, like, civilizations, they keep collapsing, and the bigger they get, they collapse faster and faster. So I'm like, maybe this isn't what we're meant to be doing, you know?
Yeah. I definitely see where you're coming from there.
And I suppose as far as like needing a plan for the revolution, I guess this is where this podcast comes in, and like younger leftist writings, and like the emergence of like Gen Z as like political scientists and revolutionaries, and I'm honestly just very excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really intelligent people that I think are either led astray by people who aren't genuinely leftist or aren't genuinely for something good in life, you know?
Yeah.
That if you kind of pulled back the veil and allowed people to see things as they are, like in a way that they can subjectively make the right choice for themselves, you get a more educated and more well-rounded society of young people who can, really bring this life to the bring this global community to the next level of understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited for the future. I don't know how much you believe in like astrology, but astrology wise, a revolution is coming, whether we all like it or not.
Yeah, I'm not too much into astrology, but it's
Well,
definitely an interesting way to look at things.
I like to use it as like a kind of a secondary source when I like think about life and everything, because I don't hold it in like a completely high regard, because of course you have the power to change your outcome. If you don't want something to happen, you can obviously put in work to stop it, no matter what the stars say. But we're entering a very, very, very interesting astrological time. Like literally in these next couple days. I think this podcast will probably go up after the fact, but December 21st, 2020, is the winter solstice this year, and the winter solstice is really focused on rebirth and like the becoming new again. But also on the solstice is a planetary conjunction. And this planetary conjunction happens every like 20 years, and it usually marks the end and beginning of a new like socio-political period. And so it's moving from Sagittarius, which is about structure and sort of like the house that you live in, and it's moving away from that, and it's moving into Aquarius, which is an air sign, so it's about freedom, and it's also the humanitarian sign. And it gets even more like amplified because we're in the age of Aquarius. Also, we recently moved into it a couple years ago, and the age of Aquarius is again like the humanitarian sign, and it predicts the end of a world and the start of a new one. And so all of this energy is like compounding, and it's very, very revolutionary, and it brings me joy.
Um, yeah, I can see where the groundwork for that has been set up in a lot of places. And yeah, honestly, I can't say I want um, the change to happen right now because people are not only too close minded for it,
Oh yeah.
but um, there have been a lot of people kind of taught in a sense where um, they are going to resist that no matter how good it would be.
Yeah.
So I say wait a few generations, see where this newer progressive movement takes America and where it brings the minds of the youth and the general population, and then kind of take a more objective look at what a revolution would really do to America and the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think, yeah, at this present moment, a revolution would be sort of viable. I think it would fail though. But it's important to note that like all the conjunction and the solstice is happening on like tomorrow, the 21st. But it's the age of Aquarius lasts about 100 years, and it started a few years ago. And then this with the conjunction, it's a new planetary cycle that lasts 20 years. So it's
Mm.
not it's just the beginning of like the era for it. So it's coming, but not it's not like next week we're gonna be in a fucking class war.
Yeah. Oh, that class war, yay.
I just hope that by the time we get there, I have my little commune set up somewhere, and we I can just, you know, have my little communist little area while the rest of the world turns post-apocalyptic, and if them bitches need me to help sort some stuff out in the aftermath. Actually, I'm fully willing to participate in the revolution, so whoever's gonna be in charge of that, give me a call.
Yeah, I think we've had some genuinely good dialogue, just concerning logistics and Greek mythology, and just some current events that are happening. And I get to watch you be bad at parkour.
Yeah, in my defense, I haven't played Minecraft in quite a long time.
Understandable.
Last time I played with this boy who played me for my nudes and then blocked me, but it was okay because he didn't have to fake an emotional connection with me to get my nudes. He literally just had to ask. So he just wasted his time. Like, nice. You didn't have to spend your time watching TV on Discord with me. You really did not need to do that. You know the vibes.
I know the vibes.
Yeah. I think, I gotta get my fucking mutual aid shit up. You already know I gotta promote that shit.
Fuck yeah.
So I think that is all the discussion that we have for today. Thank you so much, Max, for being here.
Happy to.
This week, the mutual aid that I will be, I guess, promoting, you should all support them on Instagram. Their is AVL Survival. It's Asheville Survival Program. They work with mutual aid. They give coffee and to homeless people. They also do a lot of clothing drives. They're always accepting different kinds of donations, and of course, they are always accepting like donations via Venmo. It will be linked in. It will be in the description, but also, it is. Wait, where is it? Hello. Their on Venmo is also AVL Survival. So if you can, with your holiday Christmas money, go support this really good mutual aid program. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next week.
All right. So we done recording?